shall we begin?
All right.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Hail to the king, baby.
What's in the box?
Precious.
I'm vengeance.
This is going to be quite a ride.
And hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian Renteria, and this is the Movie Pit Podcast, where we talk about all the big breaking movie news items of the week. Well, most of the big movie news items of the week. We'll talk about the trailers that came out this week, and we'll talk about the movies that are out in theaters and streaming for all your viewing pleasures this week. Hello. I originally thought it was going to be a slow week, and then, because just the way the week was going, I was like, well, there's not a lot of stuff coming out. And then it's just like the movie gods heard me, and they're like, no. We got stuff. They dropped a lot of stuff on us this week. So, what was originally supposed to be probably a short week, no longer a short week because of all this movie news items that's coming out, which is really great. Before we get to all that, obviously the Oscars happened this past weekend, and Everything Everywhere All at Once was a big winner. So good for them. Good for everybody who won. I know there was a lot of stuff that happened with, the whole Angela Bassett thing and Jamie Lee Curtis. Everything that's been said about that has been said already, so I'm not going to get into that. So I just wanted to mention the Oscars because, this is a movie news podcast, and I got to mention the Oscars. The Oscars at least at one point. So there's that. That being said, as far as this recording goes, at least the time of this recording, there has been no trailers, no big trailers that have come out. So if something drops by the time, that I can interject it, I'll put it right here. If not, let's just get right to the movie news. So here's the first movie news item. Just after breaking the news last week that Nancy Meyers was getting back behind the camera since 2015 for romantic comedy with Netflix, the streamer has shut down the new movie over budgetary reasons. Reports say that Netflix and Meyers could not come to an agreement on the budget, with Meyers wanting a budget of at least $150 million, but Netflix did not want to go over $130 million. $20 million difference. Obviously, I guess is a very big deal. $20 million is a lot of money. Regardless of the number, the movie would have held the title for the most expensive romantic comedy in Hollywood. Something that obviously, Nancy Meyers herself is very familiar with. That is the genre that she is known for. Romantic comedies, usually mid-budget movies, but she wanted to, expand on that. Good for her, and I think well reserved. But Netflix was like, no, we're not doing that. So there you go. The movie had some big names circling, or the movie had some big names rather circling the movie for roles like Scarlett Johansson, Penelope Cruz, Owen Wilson, and Michael Fassbender. It would have followed a young writer-director who falls in love with a producer, with the pair making several successful films before breaking up both romantically and professionally. They are forced back together when a new great project rises, and they find themselves having to deal with high stakes and volatile stars. This would have mirrored Nancy Meyers' own life, where she also was romantically and professionally involved with a writer, producer, director herself. And then after breaking up, she went on and did other great projects as well. Last week, when this was reported, it didn't sound that budgetary reasons would be the reason why this project wouldn't happen. In fact, the wording last week was that the budget talks are still happening, which would impact when production started. So it was either going to start either late this year or early next year, and that's how it was worded. And now this week, it's like, no, we're canceling the project altogether because we can't agree on a budget. This is, I don't want to say it's a big deal, but it is kind of a big deal because Meyers, had come out of basically her break. She hadn't directed anything, like I mentioned, from 2015 or since 2015 with The Intern, and her coming back, especially coming back on a streaming service as big as Netflix is, big name itself, big name herself, big name streamer. Obviously, this movie already had a bunch of eyes on it because of that, and now it's being canceled because of budgetary reasons. There's no news on whether or not this project will go somewhere else, or if Netflix will just find some other director to do it who will do it with the $130 million budget that they want. $130 million budget. But I don't know if maybe they'll go back to the bargaining table at some point. I'm sure Nancy Meyers, will get offers from other studios to come in and be like, we'll give you $150 million to do a movie. Sure. There you go. No Nancy Meyers. At least at the moment, Netflix has shut down the project. James Gunn is now officially directing Superman Legacy. When the new lineup for the new DC universe was announced, Gunn revealed that he was only writing the new Superman movie and was hesitant on even that front, but took the chance anyway, and apparently he really liked how it was coming along, and now reveals that he is directing the movie as well, which was also a decision that he also didn't take very lightly. I think a lot of it also was connected to his late father's birthday. He just kind of wanted, his late father. He was open about his late father being one of the reasons why he fell in love with comic books. So very touching story in general, and he's finally gonna direct the new Superman movie. The new movie will, according to Safran, who is the new co-head of DC Films along with Gunn, says the movie will focus on, quote, Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. He is the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. He is the kindness in a world that thinks that kindness is old-fashioned. So that's what the movie's about. Obviously, Superman Legacy, so it's going to be talking about Superman. The movie will feature a new Superman, as Henry Cavill won't play the character, having played him since Man of Steel. Of course, everything that happened with Henry Cavill coming back for the Black Adam cameo, putting that post up that he was back as Superman, and then shortly afterwards, the news of James Gunn and Peter Safran taking over DC Films and basically restructuring, rebooting, whatever you want to, call it, the DC universe, and Henry Cavill was basically out. They didn't fire him. Gunn, they were very careful of using the word fire or recasting or anything like that. Gunn was adamant about him and even Gal Gadot saying that their characters just aren't needed in this first new chapter of the DC universe that he's doing. So yes, this will be a younger version of Superman, of Clark Kent, which obviously we don't, on that front, we don't need Cavill because, he's a younger version of him. So it'll be interesting to see how they, play all that out and balance it out, and we'll obviously get to see. Gunn, of course, has comic book experience, obviously. Guardians of the Galaxy, the third one coming out this May. For DC, he's directed the Suicide Squad, which started their partnership in a lot of ways, so there is that. But this would be, for all intent and purposes, the first big name superhero that Gunn has been able to direct. Cornerstone, if you will, of comic book characters. Even if you can go to a random person and be like, name a comic book character, they'll either say Spider-Man, Batman, or Superman. So this is a very big deal. Gunn, I more than likely, know that he's not taking this lightly at all. This is Superman. This is a character that people love and have loved and will forever love. And he knows the, no pun intended, the legacy of this character, and calling the movie Superman Legacy, obviously very double meaning for that, triple meaning with that, with everything. So Gunn writing, directing, obviously producing, obviously the head of DC Films, a lot of hats on his head right now for the new Superman Legacy movie. Superman Legacy does currently have a release date of July 11th, 2025. Still a ways out. I think when Gunn announced the DC lineup, he said that he was in the process of writing it. He said he was like halfway done. So script still probably being written, or if not already has been written, at least the first draft of it, and Gunn coming on board to direct. I'm sure that will entice some people to come in, and obviously, whoever he ends up casting as the new Superman has some big shoes to fill, regardless of what Superman you want to, take, Cavill, Reeves, whoever it is. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. More power to Gunn if he can nail this. Obviously, Gunn taking, if he messes this up, he is the head of the studio, so he is taking it. He's going to take one on the chin regardless, and I think Gunn is okay with taking it on the chin if he messes up Superman. He doesn't want to mess up Superman. He knows directly. He has been quoted as saying he knows how important Superman is. This one's pretty big for me because I know he has been wanting to do this for a while, and it was only a matter of time before he was going to do a full-blown version of this. So Guillermo del Toro, obviously fresh off his Oscar win for Pinocchio this past weekend at the Oscars, is getting ready for his next live-action film, and it's, like I mentioned, something he's been working on for a while, Frankenstein. Not only that, Del Toro is eyeing up some big names for the cast in Andrew Garfield, Oscar Isaac, and Mia Goth from, of course, X and Pearl. However, it should be noted no offers have been made to them yet. However, Del Toro has talked to them about potentially being in the movie, but again, no offers made so far. The movie will come out through Netflix, which has been very good to Del Toro. Again, getting the Oscar win for Best Animated Feature with Pinocchio, his version of Pinocchio. And then they released the anthology series, Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities, which was well received by fans and critics alike. Even before that, like way back, like years ago, they released the Troll Hunter animated series, which he had a hand in creating and producing. And I think he also even directed a few episodes of that. So Netflix has been very good to Del Toro. Del Toro has been very good to Netflix. And they want to continue their partnership and obviously finally give him the chance to do something he's been wanting to do for a long time. He's a big monster guy. If you're a fan of Del Toro like I am, you know that he is a fan of monsters, and Frankenstein has been and is known to be one of his favorites. And it was only a matter of time before he actually finally got to do a Frankenstein movie. I know he's been wanting to do one for a while. I think it was back in 2018, or maybe even earlier than that. He mentioned at a film festival, I think it was that Tribeca Film Festival, where he mentioned that he had been wanting to do a Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein movies, but he just couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it because he couldn't find a way to really nail it down, and no studio would probably give it to him. And now it looks like, Netflix is like, you won an Oscar and you gave us a lot of attention and you did all this stuff for us. We're going to give it to you. As opposed to Nancy Meyers from earlier in the podcast, Del Toro has given a lot for the studio, has given the studio a lot, and they have complete trust in him. And now he gets to do a Frankenstein movie, which has been wanting to do for a while. And he loves that character. And I have always, when I found out that he's been wanting to do a Frankenstein movie, I was like, yes, let him do a Frankenstein. Let Del Toro do a Frankenstein movie. He obviously loves this character. He understands this character. He knows what the character is. More power to Del Toro if he can pull this off and create and do a movie that we all know is going to be visually fantastic and emotionally damaging to a lot of us, because Frankenstein, for all intents and purposes, is a tragic character. So, that would be very, very cool and interesting. Del Toro is currently writing the script, so it's still a bit of ways away. But Garfield, Isaac, and Goth, just those three names alone, and Del Toro in a Frankenstein movie, worth the price of admission alone, in my opinion. So, or I guess worth the price of subscription, not admission, because it's not coming in theaters. And here's potentially the biggest movie news item of the week for a lot of people. Quentin Tarantino has reportedly found his 10th and final movie, and a movie that is reportedly, right now at least, titled The Movie Critic. Tarantino will, of course, write the script himself, and while details are unknown, sources say the movie is described as a story set in the late 1970s Los Angeles. I don't know why I said it that way. It will have a female lead. The project doesn't have a home studio yet, but reports are saying that it could go up next week, for bidding anyway, and that Sony is an early front runner. Sony, of course, distributed Tarantino's last film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which was well received and did pretty well at the box office. Tarantino has said that he wants to call it quits on directing films after 10, which this would be his 10th film, or retire when he's 60. At least in terms of filmmaking. He does turn 60 later this month. Coincidentally, I actually share a birthday with Quentin Tarantino on March 27th, so now you know my birthday. The Hollywood Reporter, which got the exclusive of this story, suggests the story could potentially focus on Pauline Kael. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name right. She was one of the most influential movie critics of all time before she passed away in 2001, and in the 70s actually worked as a consultant for Paramount Pictures before becoming a full-blown movie critic. So Tarantino apparently holds her in very high regard and respected her a lot. So this could be his way of paying tribute to her, also paying tribute to old Hollywood, which obviously he is a fan of, because obviously Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And Tarantino himself, everyone, when they hear all the 10 movies that he's done, he has, stated in the past that when he's done with films, he could move on to writing novels and even doing limited TV series limited series. So he's not, gonna go completely away. He's gonna still be around. I mean, a guy like that is not gonna suddenly stop. But his 10 movies deal that he made to himself is very concrete, because he's been saying that for years. I think he's been saying that since Django. Since Django Unchained. I think he's been saying it since then. So it makes sense, he's his comments about it, he's like, a lot of directors don't know when to call it quits and something like that, something along those lines. I'm sure you can find the direct quote if you want to go look it up, but he's been very adamant about 10 and done. So this is his 10th movie. I mean, what a way to go out. I mean, we don't know what the movie's about. Maybe he'll take the the dream-esque approach, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, or maybe he'll just tell a full-on, just complete story. But it will be interesting to see, how this turns out, who will be in it. Obviously, it's a female lead, if that is really the case, who he gets to be, his female lead. Who is he going to work with on his last movie? I'm sure we'll get the usual suspects, but this is a big moment for a lot of people. Obviously, Tarantino is in a lot of people's top directors lists, and he has had a career, to say the least. So there you go. Tarantino, potentially his last movie is called The Movie Critic, and we'll obviously see what comes of that and updates on that, and obviously we'll keep a very close eye on this. And that's all the movie news that we have, at least at the time of this recording. If anything drops and I get a chance to put them into the podcast, I'll put it in right here. If not, they'll go up on the Twitter page. But that being said, let us move on to the movies that are coming out in theaters and streaming this weekend for all your viewing pleasures.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Streaming wise, we have two movies. Yes, we have two movies coming out streaming that I was able to find on Netflix. The Magician's Elephant. An orphan boy is told by a fortune teller that an elephant will help him find his lost sister. This is an animated movie. It has voice cast of Noah Jupe, Benedict Wong, Brian Tyree Henry, and Mandy Patinkin. I mean, Netflix is really stepping up their game in terms of animation. Obviously, we got this, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which won Best Oscar this past weekend. The Sea Beast, which was also nominated, so there was that. So they're really stepping up their game in terms of animation, and it'll be interesting to kind of see where this one falls. Obviously, Mitchell's vs. Machines being another one, but it'll be interesting to kind of see where this one falls. This one, it looks okay. I saw the trailer briefly. It looks fine. I don't know if I'll end up watching it, but maybe I will end up watching it at some point, because again, Netflix stepping up their game in animation, so we can't really sleep on those. On Hulu, Boston Strangler. We've briefly talked about this on the podcast. This follows Loretta McCollin, who is played by Keira Knightley in the movie, was the reporter who first connected the murders and broke the story of the Boston Strangler. She and Jean Cole, who will be played by Carrie Coon in the movie, challenged the sexism of the early 60s to report on the city's most notorious serial killer. So yes, this is based off the true story. Obviously, the Boston Strangler was a real person, committed these heinous crimes. The rest of the cast: Alessandro Nivola, David, I always mispronounce his last name, David Dasmalchian. I always mispronounce his last name, and I hate it, because he's a wonderful actor, also a wonderful human being. Rory Corcoran is in here, also Chris Cooper. These are all great. It's a great cast. It really is. I haven't seen any early reports I think I saw one early report from someone I follow, and they said that it was just okay, but this movie's been, I think it's been bouncing around a little bit. I think it was definitely set up at 20th Century Fox, and then I think they pushed it back a little bit. And then, obviously when it got bought out, it kind of stuck in limbo a little bit. But it's finally coming out, and it's on Hulu. And I saw the trailer. The trailer looks pretty good. I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast or not, but I did see the trailer when it came out last month. I think it was last month when it came out. And it was pretty good. It looks pretty good. So it's Keira Knightley, Carrie Coon, just those two alone. You can't really go wrong with that. So hopefully, it turns out better than that little review that I saw from somebody. So there you go, Boston Strangler. In theaters, we have a couple limited releases. First one is Moving On. Two old friends reconnect at a funeral and decide to get revenge on the widower who messed with them decades before. This stars Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, Michael McDowell, and Richard Roundtree. I saw the trailer for this, I think, when I went to go watch the Titanic re-release in theaters, and I was like, interesting. It's Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. I mean, obviously they have wonderful time working together, because it's like their second project together, the third project together in quite some, in the recent years, because they had that show on Netflix. I forgot what it was called. Grace and Frankie, that's what it was called. They had that. They did 80 for Brady they came out earlier this year, and now we have this. So they love working together, and they're going to keep doing movies together, and I'm sure they'll have a crowd for it. So good for them. The movie just doesn't interest me. That's just me, but I'm sure it'll be funny. I did chuckle a little bit during the trailer, so I mean, I'm sure it'll be funny, and I'm sure it'll find a crowd. Just not for me. All right, the next one is Inside. This stars William Dafoe. I think this one also has been bouncing around a little bit, at least release date wise. So William Dafoe is Nemo. A high-end art thief is trapped in a New York penthouse after his heist doesn't go as planned. Locked inside with nothing but priceless works of art, he must use all of his cunning and Invention to Survive. It's William Dafoe. It's a one-man movie from what I've heard. The trailer looks pretty cool. It's just, him trying to figure out, what's he going to do? Is he going to go insane? Is he going to figure out a way to get out? What's going to happen? Is he going to get caught? All that just itself lends itself to being, pretty cool. So, and it's Willem Dafoe. Can't go wrong with Willem Dafoe. So there you go. That's Inside. Limited release as well. The movie release, obviously, this week, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. The excitement level for this, I feel, has gone down a lot. I feel like people were like, oh, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, and that first trailer came out, they're like, oh, this looks pretty fun. This looks pretty interesting. And then it kind of just took a deep dive a little bit. This was before, James Gunn came in and, said that they were going to, restart everything, retool everything. And before Zachary Levi came out and said, his idiotic things, and people started finding out, other things that he said in his past and, what he's done. So I don't know. I'm still going to go watch it. I guess, it's a new movie. I enjoyed the first one for what it was. So I'm definitely going to go watch this one because I can't help myself. It's what I do. And again, I was excited from that first trailer. I thought, I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. The second trailer came out and it still looked pretty good. But yeah, the excitement level, my excitement level wasn't high, but I don't know. I mean, it doesn't look boring. Like, it's not one of those movies where I'm like, oh, this looks boring, but I'm going to watch it anyway. No, I don't know what it is. Maybe it is the Zachary Levi thing. Maybe it is the fact that, maybe this movie, subconsciously, I just think that if everything's going to reset, why should I get excited for this movie before, everything comes out? But I don't know. I'm still going to go watch it. I know a lot of people have jumped off the train, and that's totally fine, and I get it, and I understand it. But I don't know. It just seems, I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's odd a little bit. I've never seen an excitement level for a movie drop this much before it even came out. And even with people, with the cast and everything, like, move that aside. And maybe that plays a factor. I don't know. But move that aside. The excitement level for this thing just went down completely. And I don't know if people were just, I was just seeing a certain section of fans that were really excited for it. And then it finally just kind of like, broadened down, and I just saw the whole picture of it. But it's really weird that happened. But there you go. Shazam! Fury of the Gods, your big release this week. Inside and Moving On are your limited releases this week. And on streaming, you have Boston Strangler on Hulu and The Magician's Elephant on Netflix. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I very much appreciate it. As always, appreciate it. I don't know what's wrong with me, but thank you guys so much for that. You can check out all the links down below in the description/show notes area, links to the social medias, links to places you can listen to the podcast and other platforms. No matter where you're listening to this, whether you're listening to this on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Anchor, or Spotify for podcasts, it's the new name that they got for it. Good Pods. We're all up on there. All those links are down below in the description/show notes area. No matter where you're listening, please consider leaving a review, a rating. I very much appreciate it. It helps out the podcast in the long run, and it just, makes me feel good. But yeah, thank you guys so much once again. Be sure to stay safe out there, no matter where you are. Be good people. And as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop, whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!